Hello, everybody. Happy Monday long weekend. Yeah, I am traveling today, so I don't have my normal background, and I apologize if the volume is or the audio is not that great. I'm traveling back home, and so pulling over to do this money, yeah, money matters on Monday, regardless of a holiday or where I am. So let's jump into it. So the topic of today is how to analyze any deal in under 1 minute. Now, it's going to take me a little bit longer to explain how to do this, but once you understand it, and after you do it a couple of times, you'll get this down in 1 minute. Okay, now let's just say for someone, for whatever reason, it does take you a little bit longer, but let's just say you can do it in 2 minutes or even 5 minutes. Think of how much faster you'll be with analyzing a lot of your opportunities. Okay, so before I get going, my name is Huong. I am with Cash Property, and in today's episode of Money Matters, that's what we're going to be doing. I'm going to show you a quick and easy way. Doesn't matter where you are. You don't even need your laptop or your tablet. All you need is maybe a calculator. And you can do this anywhere on the fly. I just came from a conference this weekend and I walked through this analysis with somebody with like under 5 minutes. And they were like, holy crap, that really works. Okay, so let me walk you through this. Now, while I'm going through this with you, just keep in mind that until you actually get used to doing it, it's going to take you a couple of minutes. But once you get it, it's going to be really, really fast. And then just keep in mind that you do want to double check your calculations on your laptop, on your Excel, on some other platform when you're able to do so. Okay, so let's get right into this. Okay, so we are over here. Okay, so this is what I refer to as Uncle Vic. I don't have an uncle named Vic or an Uncle Victor or anything like that. I just came up with this as because it's an easy way for me to remember the strategy and to teach this to my coaching clients. So imagine a triangle, and this is just, a normal basic math rule, is that when you have a triangle, you cover what you don't have the answer to, and then that's what you're going to solve for. Okay, so the V is on the bottom, the I is on top, and the C is on the other corner of your triangle. So the way to remember this is that this is your Uncle Vic. Cover what you don't have. The information that you're trying to calculate for, that's what you cover up. Okay, so here I'm going to just make this a little bit bigger so that you can see these three cells here. Okay, so what you want to do is, if you want to calculate what the value is, okay, so V is the value. So this will either be what you should be paying for the property, what you should be charging for the property, depending on if you're selling, okay, or what the value really should be coming back at, okay, so whatever the value is. So the V is the value, and so you could see this definition here, value, or the purchase price, or the after repair value, or the as is completion, okay? The I, which is the I part, the I, this is your income, okay? So the way I like to remember this is your net operating income. So this is your income without any of your debt, depending on what you're looking for. Okay, so I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. So your net operating income is all of your expenses coming in, less your debt going out. Okay, so this is your hydro, property taxes, insurance, all of that. So your net operating income. Now, the thing to keep in mind, though, is that this net operating income does not include your debt servicing. So you're assuming that all the rental income coming in, whatever business income coming in, all of that stuff, minus your operating expenses. So usually around 35% maybe. Okay. Don't include your debt servicing, because everybody's debt servicing is going to be calculated differently. So this I of Uncle Vic is just your net operating income. Now, if you're active in real estate, you may know this as your NOI, okay? So the other thing I'm going to just put in here so that you can see this is that your NOI. And I'm also going to put in here is that your expense ratio is roughly around 35%. Okay, just roughly, okay? So now your C is your cap rate. This is a rate And that's dependent on the market that you're in. So for example, Vancouver's cap rate is going to be different from Edmonton's cap rate, which is going to be different from New Brunswick's cap rate. So this cap rate will be different also by location, but it will also be different depending on who you talk to. For example, like if you talk to a real estate agent versus a mortgage agent, they may give you a different cap rate. If you're talking to a bullish investor versus somebody who's very bearish, they may also give you a different cap rate. So that's also something to keep in mind. The cap rate that I like to use is my own cap rate or the lender's cap rate. So if I'm going to go and refinance a property or purchase a property, yes, it's nice to know what the real estate agent thinks. And yes, it's nice to know what other real estate agents think, but at the end of the day, it's the lender's cap rate that's more important. Okay, so that is the triangle formula there. And cover whatever you don't want. Sorry, cover what you're trying to solve for. So in the example that I'm going to share with you here, if you know what your net operating income is, or if you know what the total income is from your property. So let's just say, I'm just going to do that over here. Let's just say that your total income from all your rentals, from parking, laundry, all of that stuff, let's just say it's 100,000. Okay. So over the weekend, when I was sharing this concept with somebody, they shared with me, okay, well, the income is some number, and I can't remember what the number is. Then they said, well, the expenses is 65,000. Okay, that's quite high, right? Like that's a 65% expense ratio. So usually on multifamily, 35, 40 on the top end, maybe 45. If you're anywhere up north of 45, there's probably some potential savings there. Or it means that you're not charging enough rents. Potentially, you've got some undervalued units, potentially. Okay. So let's just say you don't know what the expenses are, or you're not exactly sure. Okay. So you have 100,000 as your income. Okay. So then if you just take away 35,000, because we're going to say it's a 35,000 expenses. Okay. So then it's going to be your 100,000 minus your 35,000. Okay. So that's your 65,000 right there. So then you take your 65,000 and you divide it by your cap rate. And if your cap rate is, let's say 5%, let's say in the Edmonton market, okay, so then your V, which is what you're trying to find out, your value, which is what you're going to want to pay for this property, is going to be your 65,000 divided by your 5%. So at the most, this property, you should only be offering 1.3 at the most. Okay. So in the conversation that I was having, they were asking quite a bit for this property. It was way higher than this. Okay. So let me just go back, because now my image here is completely off here. Okay. So this is a really fast way of calculating. Are they is the person who's selling asking way too much money for this? Okay. And it could be justified. Basically, they could be saying, hey, you know what, Huong, we're not at market rents here, but if you could increase this market rent to 200,000, well, then maybe it makes sense. Okay. Or, hey, if you could decrease the expenses, right? Because they had like a 60 or 65% expense ratio. So if you could decrease the expenses some way, then maybe the price value will go up. Okay. So the way I've set this up is I would increase my input by gross rental income. Okay. And so this gross rental income is all of my income coming in. So this would be my 100,000. Okay. So I'm going to type in 100,000 here. 3. Okay. And what is happening here? Okay. So now my expenses, of course, is not going to be 500,000. Like if I'm only making 100,000, my expenses are probably going to be a lot less than that. So I'm going to put in 35,000, because sort of, that's what I'm thinking it's going to be. So my NOI is 65,000. Now here I'm using a cap rate because I must have been analyzing for a campground or something, like a hotel that had a higher cap rate. So I'm going to go in here and put in 5%. So here you see the value is 1.3 million here. Now, if these guys were asking 3 million for this opportunity, based on this NOI of 65,000, the cap rate that they're actually trying to sell this at is 2.2. So you can see there's a huge discrepancy here between what my lender or what the market is telling me this property should be worth, which is really 1.3 million, versus what they're trying to sell it for, which is at 3 million. Okay, so this is a quick and easy way to calculate how far off are you from the seller. Because if you guys are only maybe, you know, 200,000, maybe $500,000 off, then there's room to negotiate there. But if you guys are off by like 1.5 million, there's no way they're going to come down on pricing unless you put in the time and effort to negotiate. Okay, or unless you can increase the gross rental income. So let's say the gross rental income goes up to 200,000. Okay, so now this is a huge difference here. So your expense ratio, we're still assuming 35%, which now is going to be a little bit on the low end here. But now our NOI is 165,000 based on a 5% cap rate. The value should be 3.3. Well, if the seller is asking for 3 million, you're already doing really well, okay? Because you're going to be underpaying by 300,000, and really you're making what they're asking for is a 5.5 cap rate, which is really good. Okay, so now let's just say, for example, the expense ratio goes up to 60%. Okay, see, so now you're a little bit closer to what they're asking for here, right? 2.8 million. So there's room there to negotiate. Okay, so the other thing that I just want to point out here is this quick and easy formula here. So the V is, if you cover up the V, it's your I divided by your C. And if you cover up the I, which is what you're trying to find out for, it's your V times your C. And if you cover up your C, so your cap rate, so if for some reason, if you don't know what your cap rate is, then that formula is your I divided by your V. Okay, so the way that I am able to do my calculations very quickly on the spot and without my laptop, and as long as you have your calculator or your cell phone, then you can calculate one of these three missing numbers to figure out, okay, hey, you know what, is this even a deal worth looking at? Okay, so that is how you can impress anybody and do an analysis under 1 minute. Okay, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so very much for watching. I am your host, Huong Lu with Cash Property. And please make sure to like or subscribe or give thumbs up or whatever. Okay, just show me some love. Okay, well, have a great weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.